Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Ground Up Show. My name's Matt Diavella, and today I'm speaking with Alex Ferrari of IndieFilmHustle.com. He's a director and filmmaker with more than 20 years of experience in the industry, and he helps filmmakers and creatives make and pave their own way by making independent films. In our conversation, we talk about how the film industry has changed, how Hollywood has changed over the past 15 to 25 years, and how that has given power to the content creators and independent filmmakers, and why the Hollywood studios are scared shitless because of that. We talk about mindfulness practices and how to stay sane when creating and executing at a very high level. This is a guy that produces 2 to 3 podcast episodes per week, 2 to 3 blog posts per week, an insane amount of content, and I got to say meaningful content that really help other people. How do you execute at that level without losing your mind? How do you get seen? How do you build an audience? We discussed that. It's definitely something I'm interested in. How do you take a message that's really important to you, that means a lot to you, and get it in front of more than just your parents? A difficult challenge, but one that we tackle on this episode, and lots more. But before we get to that conversation, if you like this podcast and you liked Minimalism, a documentary about the important things, I've got something that you might like. I recently conducted interviews with the producers of Minimalism to give a detailed look at how we made the movie. Those interviews with the minimalists and Spire are yours for free if you leave a review for the Ground Up Show on iTunes. Reviews help to get the word out for the show, and they help us to continue to do what we're doing here. So head over to iTunes, take a screenshot of your review, and send it to hello@mattdiavella.com. and I will send you those interviews. And now, without further ado, check out this episode with Alex Ferrari. Indie Film Hustle, Alex Ferrari in the building.
Yes. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, what's going on? Thanks for coming out.
No problem, man. No problem.
I'm really excited about this conversation. There's a lot that I want to unpack and learn from you. 20 years in the industry.
Sure.
I just moved out to LA
Sure.
In July.
Okay.
So I've got like 2 months in the actual film industry.
Oh, so the streets are still paved with gold for you.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's wonderful,
lovely.
isn't it? Like,
yeah.
When I first got here, I was like, oh my God, there's post houses everywhere. There's studios everywhere. Everyone's an actor.
Yeah.
You go to any Starbucks, they're writing screenplays. When you're from not here,
Yeah.
that's a huge deal.
Yeah,
And
it's amazing. And I it's on your site. It's and your podcast and a lot of the stuff you talk about is
Right.
that the industry can chew you up and spit you out, and it's
it
not
will. It will. It doesn't. It's not if. It will do that. It's how you how resilient you are to it and how you deal with it. It's going to happen to everyone. It's happened to everyone.
Yeah.
Even Steven Spielberg, even Scorsese, even Cameron, all the giants, all of them have their asses handed to them at one point or another in the business. And it's just how you deal with it. And even as they get bigger, they still just, their problems are just a little bit bigger than ours and a little bit more different than ours. But they all have problems. Look, Spielberg couldn't get money for Lincoln. Freaking Steven Spielberg couldn't get Lincoln financed. Mm-hmm. And he had to hustle forever. I mean, Scorsese's last movie, Silence, that was his dream project for like a decade. No one would give him money for it. So they all have to hustle in their own way, you know?
Yeah, and I'm curious, and we can get into that, and I'm really interested about the differences between the indie film world, especially with narrative, because that's something I know nothing about.
Mm-hmm.
I know a little bit about the doc world, but I think that's probably a totally different story. Mm-hmm. But before we get into all that, tell me a little bit about your days now. How do you feel your days? It seems like you got your hand on a lot of stuff.
Right now, I'm focusing a lot of energy on Indie Film Hustle itself. Just redesigned the site from scratch. Everything you see on Indie Film Hustle is done by me.
Wow.
So the podcast, the videos, everything is either produced by me, graphics, everything's done.
I was going to say that because you do have a lot of graphics, graphic for every episode. Everything's custom. Everything's built specific.
Like I'm trying to figure a way out not to do that, but I just started that way.
Yeah.
Because I had a lot more time when I started this thing 2 years ago. I'm like, I'll just make everything look pretty. And now I've been caught in that thing. Yeah. But it's part of the brand now, so I have to kind of keep up with it and at least try to streamline it in one way, shape, or form. But I focus a lot of energy right now on the podcast as well as the website, my membership site, and all these, and now my YouTube channel where I'm now releasing something called the Director Series, which is by a wonderful filmmaker. His name is Cameron Beal, Beyl, and we partnered up. He has this insane series on film directors, and he just goes and like kind of like Silence of the Lambs style, goes deep into these guys. So what we have Fincher. No, I think he did Fincher, Nolan, the Coen brothers, P.T. Anderson.
It's just small indie guys.
Yeah, small guys. Kubrick, and I think that's it right now. He's working on Terrence Malick as we
So these
speak.
are film interviews, video interviews?
No, these are like video essays to the nth degree. So each episode's like 30 to 40 minutes. Some of them even go to an hour and a half. And he breaks down their entire career.
Oh, wow.
Like everything. So right now we're releasing our first series, which was Fincher. And they go into he goes into specific commercials and like breaks them down and what his styles were. And this was the first time he did world building, like in the Express Yourself video for Madonna. That's the first time he did world building. And then that can be, you can translate over to Alien 3 and how he built those production design sets and all this stuff. He connects it all, and it's so wonderful. And I'm so honored to be releasing it through Indie Film Hustle. And we're going to be putting out amazing content about, like right now I just released today, Tony Scott, The Ultimate Guide. And it's everything you ever want to know about Tony Scott. Like literally the same thing, but just in an article form, not in a video form.
What's great about it is that you have, with nearly every modern filmmaker today, you can go back and look at the first stuff they ever made.
Amazing, right?
You can look back at some of the college projects that they made when they were in school.
Absolutely.
And do you think, what do you do to fully understand them? Is it to just look at their works, or read what others have written and studied about their works?
I think for me personally, I did a little bit of this for Kubrick. He's probably my favorite filmmaker. And I went down the rabbit hole about 4 or 5 years ago, pretty deep. I'd always watched his movies and everything, but I really went full-blown Seven John Doe style. Went into Kubrick's world. And it's such a dense world. But what I did is I literally watched all his films, which is always a starting point. And then I read everything. I saw everything. I went down to the LACMA when it was here. I wish it was there always. I would just go there as a place to work, just to be surrounded by Kubrick stuff. But I think just analyzing as much as you can, watching as much stuff as you can. And now with these amazing video essays out there, there's a lot of great stuff. Nerd Writer and Lessons from a Screenplay and Every Frame of Painting. And these guys, they're really good, and it gives you different perspectives on the artist's work, and it just opens up a lot of doors that might have not been open in your mind about the directors, especially when you're dealing with some of these giants. Like Kubrick is just a riddle wrapped in an enigma, it just keeps going and going. And same thing with all the ones I said, P.T., Nolan, Malick, these kind of guys. They just go on forever. And the longer the career, can you imagine Scorsese trying to go into deep in Scorsese, or Spielberg, who has 3 decades, almost 4 decades of film that you can actually access. From most of it, you have access to. I remember the days that you couldn't have access to stuff. It was just whatever was in the video store. And I was in a generation that was lucky enough to have a video store. The generation before me, like Spielberg, we never saw anything. We just waited for it to come, like Kurosawa movies to come at the theater, and then we'd sit there and watch it. We couldn't stop, rewind it, and analyze it. So I think we're very blessed today, which is interesting to see how filmmakers are using that information, because there's so much of it out there, but I don't see the movies getting better, if that makes any sense. I'm not trying to be an ass about it, but there are amazing filmmakers out there, but the bulk of the work out there is not at a level that, with all this access, with all this information, with all of this material to analyze, why isn't the work getting better? Why aren't there new ground? Why aren't new trails being blazed?
Well, I guess you could break it down into a couple of different categories. Would you say the quality is getting better for most films?
Oh God, yes. I mean, the quality of the production quality. Yeah, I think people are getting a little slicker. Trust me, I've worked on so many movies in my career mostly in the indie world, that some of them I'm just like, why did you pick up a camera? And then there are other ones that are like, okay, he really milked that camera for everything it was worth, and the production looked really, really slick. I think the quality of productions, I think now are gotten to a point where it has gotten a lot better than it used to be. But the story is not as the storytelling, I think, is getting lost somewhere in the production. Everyone's always about the camera and how many Ks you've got, and I'm going to shoot on 8K Red Dragon, whatever they're calling it now, and I'm like, that's great, man. But at the end of the day, it's about the story and it's about those characters, and people will forgive low production value if there's a good story.
And maybe that's the big problem, is that more and more people can do it. So,
oh God, yes.
I mean, it's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing because we can make films now when otherwise you'd have to go through a traditional system. The bad thing is that a lot of people are doing it, and if yours is good, it's a little bit harder to navigate through all the shit.
Right. The level of entry is much cheaper to get into, and I kind of witnessed this when Final Cut came into the world. I was an Avid editor. And I went to get myself certified as an Avid editor and paid the $800 for the certificate that I never showed anyone. And but I got certified in Avid, and I was an Avid editor. And then all of a sudden, this hooligan called Final Cut showed up, and all of a sudden, everybody was an editor. Mm-hmm. So where you used to be able to make $50 or $100 an hour as an editor, now there's 15 kids out there who call themselves an editor, but they're not real editors. They just know how to run a software on their laptop. And then all of a sudden the market got diluted, and then the prices started dropping and dropping. And then, so I saw that first happen in post, because that's where the technology was the cheapest, and it broke through that door. Now the cameras are the same way. Before, you could not get anything that looked like film unless you actually shot film. Then the Red came in, and the Red kind of really kicked the door down for everybody. Once the Red showed up, that really opened the door and really set off the revolution. Then the DSLRs came afterwards, and that was like a happy accident because there's no plan by Canon.
There wasn't. It was just an afterthought.
They were just like, yeah, that's for weddings, or that's like, for your home videos. They never even thought about like filmmakers. What? We could like do a revolution.
It was difficult for me. And for every client that I got at that period of time. This was my senior year of college when the 5D Mark II came out. Mm-hmm. And I had a Canon XH1 at the time, a great like HD camcorder, basically.
Sure.
And it shot really high quality video, but like nothing like the Canon 5D.
Yeah.
But then to see my friends who would get it, a couple of my friends had it, and I didn't have the money. I didn't have $3,000 to drop on a camera.
Sure.
But it was so good. You couldn't deny how good the quality was from these tiny cameras.
Comparatively to in the video world, yes. But when you compare it to the film world, no.
Yeah.
And that's where I always had a problem with DSLRs personally. Like I also color graded and finished probably about 5 or 6 5D movies.
Really?
Yes.
That's tough, dude. Because the early 5Ds too, it was so crushed.
No one knew what they were doing. The color space was really low. No one was shooting it properly. No one really, everything was underlit. Mm-hmm. I had a movie once that was shot mostly in a forest at night on a 5D. And they're like, hey, why is everything grainy? I'm like, well, do you want to see something? And by the way, all the stuff on the inside, we're going to add grain to it now. And now it's a creative choice. And
sure.
I did that on 3 of the 5 DSLR movies that I colored. So, I always had a bad taste in my mouth. Now, the DSLRs have gotten to a very respectable place. And if you know how to shoot them properly, it's good. But I'm still old school. I like raw.
Sure.
I like a raw file. So that's why I love the Blackmagic so much, because they shoot raw. And I'm like, oh God. And you can go in there and color and tweak, and it saves your ass like big time. Yeah. So if I would have shot my movie on a DSLR, I would have been screwed. It would have never made it. But having that raw file really, really, really helps a lot.
Right. Sounds like you have a really great depth of knowledge when it comes to film and filmmaking.
I've been around.
Yeah.
I've done a few things. Yeah.
When did you first start getting interested in film?
When I started working at the video store. I worked at a mom and pop video store back in 80 something, and I fell in love with movies then, and I didn't know it at the time. I started shooting like stuff with my grandfather's Super 8 camera. Mm-hmm. High 8. Excuse me, high 8. Yeah, high 8 video camera. Doing like little things for school and like hand in, instead of report, I would hand in a video. My teachers were really cool that way. And I never thought of it as a career because don't forget that time that wasn't a career that you would go after. Like it wasn't in the zeitgeist like it is today. So it wasn't even there was now there are high schools that have film programs in it. Like there was nothing like that. So for me, Hollywood was a million miles away. Like I studied Scorsese and Spielberg, and I used to watch Laserdiscs. That's the only place you can get the Criterion Laserdisc. Was the only place you can get those audio commentaries, which were gold. At the time you can hear Martin Scorsese explaining what he did during Raging Bull. Like, that's insane.
Isn't that such a cool phenomenon that they actually do that? The commentary, like, why did that come about? And
I don't know. I don't even know who came up with it, but whoever genius did, it helped generations of filmmakers. Because the Laserdiscs were the first guys to really do it. Criterion, I think, was the one that really started setting the tone. If you remember, they were expensive as hell. They were like $1.25, which was expensive back in the day. But, I saved up my little money and I'd buy them. I used to have a ton of them. I still have a bunch of them. And my Laserdisc player, which works. I plugged it in the other day. It's embarrassing. So embarrassing to watch the quality.
Yeah,
it's so bad. It's so horribly bad. Because then I put the Blu-ray of the same movie right afterwards. I was like, oh, wow. Oh, that's rough.
You didn't know what you were missing, though.
No. At the time, you were like, this is awesome. Like, the sound is so crisp. But so I started watching everything I could get my hands on. And when I got out of high school, I looked around and I said, what am I going to do with my life? And I looked in my room, and my room happened to have 3,000 VHSs that I had collected over the course of the 4 or 5 years I've been working at the video store. And I said, well, I guess I'm going to go be a director. And it's literally that easy. It was that moment on, I was like, oh, I'm just going to go direct. And I did. And I went to film school, and everything I learned at film school was pretty much obsolete when I got out, because I was at the turning point where film was going into digital. Nonlinear editing started coming into vogue. So a lot of the stuff I learned was old school stuff, which I'm grateful for because I have a nice base in it. But then I started editing I got a job being a tape dubber at the largest commercial production house doing commercials in Miami. And I did that for I interned for 4 months for free till my boss quit, and then I got the job. And then I was editing commercial reels for these big commercial directors. So I started like, hey, I'm going to be a commercial director. But while I'm doing that, I'm going to go learn this thing next door called the Avid, because I don't want a PA, because PA sucks. So I did. I learned the editing. I did that for about 9 months. And then afterwards, I was like, I'm going to quit and become a freelance editor, like a psychopath.
At what time period is this? What
this
year?
is the 97.
Yeah. Freelance anything, I feel like would be almost
but
impossible.
I was living at home, and I was like, what the hell? I'll just give it a shot.
I'm the biggest advocate for live at home for as long as you can until you can get shit going.
Absolutely, man. So I went out and I started editing right away, because I don't know if you guys or anyone in the audience has done this, but I created a fake reel. Now, it's not a spec reel. I actually got I'm a big proponent of fake it till you make it, and I was faking it pretty hard, but it was just a gray area in my opinion. So I wasn't lying per se, but it was a gray area. So what I did is, during that time at the commercial house, we had an influx of a bunch of European directors, and they brought all their footage with them. And these guys were doing like Nike style, big budget productions in Europe, but no one had ever seen that footage here. So I was like, hey, I'm just going to grab this footage and edit new commercials with it. So I edited these insane 30-second spots, and I just threw a Nike logo at the end of it.
Yes.
Or I would throw in like a Gatorade commercial at the end of it. And I created like 5 or 6 spots, and then I went out with it. And of course, anyone who saw it, like, wow, yeah, sure, we'll hire you. And that started the work. And anyone ever asked me, I'm like, are those real? I'm like, oh, no, they're not. These are spec spots. But if no one asked me, I just let them assume.
It was their assumption.
It's their assumption, not my fault.
Yeah.
It's not my fault.
Also, it
does show my work.
It's a reflection of your quality of work. So you're dealing with the same raw footage that the original editor dealt with.
Right. I was editing. It was just my style of editing. I didn't copy somebody else's. I didn't have the other. I just had raw footage. So I was able to create my own persona, if you will, through this reel. That reel was so good, I never updated. I didn't update it for 3 years. Like, how often do you not go without updating a reel? It was that solid, because I just kept getting work and work and work. So I was like, this is easy. Like, what is everyone talking about? It was also the 90s, right before the bubble pop. So there was a lot of money flowing around. There was a ton of money floating around back then.
This is a big music video time too.
Oh,
They were getting millions of dollars.
Oh, dude, I was doing music videos that were like the C-level artists were getting like 250,000 budgets. Like, then occasionally you get like, I was in Miami, so you get the Gloria Estefan, that's the big, she's got the $1 million plus, budgets and stuff. But yeah, so I did that for a while, and then I started directing, and I got a demo reel. I spent $50,000, and I put together a real commercial demo reel, which was about like 4 or 5 spots, I think, at the time, shot on 35, full productions, and I put it on my credit cards and borrowed some money from Grandpa, and put it out there, and that's the point where the business just went right across right across the chin, because I was just expecting, all right, I'll just send my reel out, I'll start directing, and and these guys are making $5,000 a day, $10,000 a day. This is easy. Didn't work out that way. Fell into debt. Almost went bankrupt at one point. There's a lot of stupidity that you do when you're young, and
it's almost part of the gambler's fallacy, where you feel like the good times are going to keep coming, and you're not necessarily preparing for when.
But that's youth.
Yeah,
that's just youth.
Totally.
Man. That's just youth. You can be told it 1,000,000 times, but until you feel it, you don't know. So there's always that moment where you gotta kind of prepare for the worst, because it always comes. It always comes. At one point or another in your life, something's gonna happen. The world's gonna change. The industry's changing. Something's gonna happen. So, So anyway, so I did that for a while, but I finally got back on my feet, directed a whole bunch of stuff, directed a short film that kind of took off for me back in 2005. Sold, I think, 5,000 DVDs of it at $20 a pop, and I created an online film school. Not an online film school, a DVD guerrilla film school at the time. And I sold it to filmmakers, showing them how I did it with the wonderful camera that will always go down in history as one of the best indie film cameras of all time, the Panasonic DVX-100A.
Oh, that's it.
It's the shit right there.
Yeah,
man.
that was an amazing camera.
That camera was so good. It was the first time, because I was always a stickler, so I was like, I'm not shooting with the Canon XL. I'm like, it's horrible.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, that was me.
It's horrible. It just looked like crap to me.
Yeah.
But when I saw the DVX, I was like, oh, it looks like film.
Was this there was the HVX2 that came after that?
That's the
Is that right?
HVX200. Yeah, that was the 720p version of that. And that was also a good little camera.
I had friends in college and friends that I went to school with that they had the adapter to attach other lenses to it. And when I saw that shit, I was like, oh my God.
I shot my shot with the widescreen adapter
and
on
it would like flip it up, so you have to film upside down.
Oh yeah, dude. There was all sorts of shit you could do with that camera.
Yeah.
Those cameras. But they were great. I recently looked at Panasonic's website, because they were like, it's coming back. Like, they were trying to revamp it. And I looked at it. I was like, oh, wow, they're bringing the DVX back. Because they're just trying. Panasonic's trying with that camera. They're killing it with the GH4s and GH5s, but they're trying to do it with the video camera. And I looked at the footage. I was just like, oh, no.
Yeah, not quite right.
Not there anymore, guys. Your moment left.
Yeah.
But it was... But for the time, that little camera was, it was a workhorse.
Yeah.
God.
It seems like you've always been tapped into the indie film hustle, whether it was in that name or another. You were trying to teach other people how you did it. Was there a reason why that came about? Were people asking you a lot of questions about, like, how the hell did you make this happen? How'd you sell 5,000 DVDs?
I think what I did with indie, first and foremost, when I did it with Broken, which was the first time I actually did something like this, and I was honestly I was ahead of my time, because there was nobody there. There was nothing. I know it's hard to believe that there was no information about filmmaking out there, other than commentaries and behind the scenes of $20 million movies, which not going to help me right now. But there was nothing out there going, hey, here's a DVX-100A, here's how I shot it, I edited on Final Cut, here's my post workflow, you guys can do this too. And it was instinctual with me, and I just felt like I wanted to help my fellow filmmakers, because they're my people. Mm-hmm. So I was like, if I can help in one way, shape, or form, great, let me do it. And I provided a wonderful product that they loved, and you really could, in 2005, you really couldn't go anywhere online without in the film world without seeing an ad or someone talking about it, because that was me. I literally sat 6 to 8 hours a day just pounding it on the message boards and the blogs and everything. I just hit it so hard that even if today you type in broken Alex Ferrari on Google, there's still probably about 20 or 30 pages of shit that just still out there. And I think I did it a couple of years ago. I'm like, let me see what's out there. And I just go through the page and see how far back I can go. My God, it's still stuff out there. Like, it's insane. It really was insane what I was able to do. So the reason why I wanted to do it, again, I just wanted to help filmmakers. And if I can help them, by selling them a good product that actually is going to help them, it helps me, it helps them. It's a fair exchange, I think. And because a lot of the lessons that I taught in that little DVD saved thousands of dollars, on a production. So, but I've been hustling since I was 9, man. I was the only kid in middle school with a pocket full of cash all the time.
Really?
I was that dude, man. I was the dude that always had cash, and I'm not from a rich family. We come from a middle class family. I never asked my parents for money. I just knew that just wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing. Like, hey, can I have $20? That was so, like, to this day, I can't ask anybody for cash. Like, I feel weird asking for cash. I'm like, no, I'll just go hustle my money. I'll go and work it, And I was the one that figured out back then, I'm like, I'm going to do garage sales every weekend. And I would just go around to all my family members. I'm like, what do you got? Do you want to get rid of? And I just take it, and I'd set up shop in front of my dad's house, and was a lot of high traffic area. I sold my toys, sold my G.I. Joe, sold my old jeans. Like, I sold everything, dude. Like, there was nothing that did not get sold. And I'd walk away every weekend with $100. Like, for a sixth grader, seventh grader, that's a lot of cash back in the 90s.
That's a lot of money.
The 80s.
Yeah.
So that was like, I was always rolling. I was always, and that's where I got my baseball cards. That's where I got my comic books, all that stuff back in the day.
I think it's about taking ownership and taking responsibility for yourself. Mm-hmm. And I was just having a conversation with somebody earlier this morning about that, where, if, say, your parents take care of you, they set you up, they pay for your apartment when you get out of college, and then maybe you don't feel motivated to get a job. If you don't take ownership and responsibility over yourself, mom and dad aren't always going to be there. People aren't always going to be there to help you out. You got to do it yourself. Oh,
there's no question. I plan to have that conversation with my daughters, because, I think this generation is really coddling their kids a little too much, and that's my generation coddling the kids coming up, and then the millennials and all that kind of stuff. But I think that you're just doing your kids a disservice, because life is not easy. It can be really fun, but it's a journey, and it's tough, man. And this business, but this life is rough to survive, in the United States or in a developed country, to hustle, to get a job, to work. And this is not easy, it isn't. And if you don't have that work ethic, or don't understand how to deal with adversity when it hits you, if you're giving everything all your life, I know those people. I know many of those people that they have just, one little thing happens to them and they just crack, they fall on the floor. And then they won't survive. I much rather struggle going up, because that's where I feel like I am right now. I've been struggling for 20 odd years being a filmmaker, to the point now where I'm making features and I'm making my movies that I'm like, I feel so much like if something goes wrong, I'm like, I don't care. It's all good, man. Let's just keep going. Like, I don't crack anymore. I had already gone through all that stuff back in the day, but I wasn't like, if I had an opportunity, and I did early on in my career, to like direct a big movie, I'm so glad it never happened, because if it would have happened, I don't know what, I would have probably self-imploded. Like, if I would have gotten to direct, big commercials, and I was pulling up $200,000 a year, I think I would have probably, life would have destroyed me. I wasn't prepared for it. I just wasn't prepared for that kind of, that fame, not fame, but money and
it's responsibility
too. I just couldn't do it. But so, I think if you don't, in today's world, if you got mom and dad giving you everything, they're doing you a disservice.
I completely agree. And I think it's a lot of times we might look down at people who were given everything in life, but like you said, you feel bad for him, because to have the struggles, to have to work for something, you're developing skills, you're learning, and you're growing, and you're becoming more resilient to when shit does hit the fan down the road.
Well, I mean, even if you have, let's say you can't be, if I'm born a Kennedy, okay, you can't blame me for being born a Kennedy. I'm born into money, but and the thing that's funny is, like, Kennedy might not be a good example, but let's say a self-made millionaire. There's a lot of them out there that they came to this country with nothing, and they built up something, and they're either a multimillionaire or billionaires at this point. All the struggles that they went through, they're not allowing their kids to go through. Their kids are going to the best schools, getting the best of everything, and when they come out, what do you think is going to happen? They're not going to have the same set of tools and skills that you did by hustling and going up. So even if you have a lot of money, you can treat your children in a certain way. It's nice to know that the money's sitting there just in case shit goes wrong, but you got to teach them the rough. I love the story. I have a story from Denzel Washington. Not that I know him, but I heard the story. I thought it was genius. And he said his kid turned 16, and he goes, "I got you a car for your birthday." He's like, "Oh, great!" And he gives him the key, and he goes out to the front. It's like, it's the old minivan that the kid that family had had for a while. It's all beat up and everything. He's like, "Is that my car, Dad?" He goes, "Yeah, that's your car." And he's like, "But you're Denzel Washington." And he goes, "Motherfucker, that's right. I am Denzel Washington. You better go out there and clean that car before I take it away from you." And you're not. And that's it. And
that's great.
But that's the work ethic that Denzel, from that story at least, is trying to show his kids. Because if you're raised up as Denzel Washington's kid, you got everything. You got the money, you got everything. But if you don't teach them the proper values, when money fails, which it always does at a certain extent, life will destroy them. And it's tough, man. But I think you got to teach your children to be as resilient as possible. And I actually enjoy now. I've gotten to a point in my life and in my career where I enjoy the grind. I enjoy the journey. And that's the thing that I think so many artists, filmmakers, but people in general, they're always looking for that goal. They're always going like, I want that thing. And they freaking forget the journey. They just focus on, and they just like, oh, I hate having to walk a mile to get to that place I want to go to. But the mile that's the joy, because when you get to your destination, that's a second and you're done. Now what? Now what? At that point in the game, you're like, okay, so, I've gotten to my goal now. That's why so many people that like get an Oscar or, make a lot of money or do something big. It's hard. You see them fall very often because they just don't know what else to do. They don't have any other aspirations because maybe their whole life was focused on getting an Oscar. And once they get that Oscar, they're just like, oh, what do I do now? I don't know. Do it again. Like, it's like they don't understand that it's about the journey.
I think that lesson is, at least for me, it was learned through experience. And sometimes that's harder to say than to do. To say it's not about the finish line and what you accomplish and what you get.
Yeah.
And I think I knew that, say, making minimalism and doing past projects where I'm like, it's all about the journey, but still looking at that finish line. Like, I just can't wait to be done with this. It's gonna be this, and this.
Yeah, for me, because I'm a bit older than you. I've gone through that process, and you're in that process probably right now that you're just like, yeah, I know the journey, but man, I just want to get to this finish line. As you get older, and not that I'm like freaking ancient, but, I'm like 26, but I look horrible for my age, by the way. For me, what it was is I was so beaten down by this business. I left the business for a little while. I always had a foot in it, but I left it for a little while to run an olive oil company. I opened up an olive oil company with my family. Olive oil. That's a whole other podcast, sir.
Holy shit.
But I ran the largest olive oil store and vinegar store in Los Angeles, and in that 3-year process was probably the most brutal time in my life, purely because of the physical brutality of the job for me. Being filmmakers, where we like, oh, I've worked 16 hours today. I'm like, yeah, I get that. But when you're doing 5 or 6 farmers markets a week, waking up at 5, moving it's brutal. It's brutal. I have such a respect for all of the farmers. So if you're in a farmer's market, guys, be nice. You've no idea how hard it is. But I left the business. And during that time, it was like my walkabout. It was my time to kind of find myself. And that's when about a year left in that journey, I decided, hey, I'm going to start looking into this online business thing. Let me start looking, and I started developing, and I read everything I could about online businesses and content marketing and SEO and the whole world. And I've always dabbled in internet. I had a website, a business back in 97, 98 as well. So I understood the whole thing. But today's world, I was like, how can I actually make a business doing this? Like, how is this possible? So I learned everything I could. I'm like, okay, there's a blueprint here. I can do something. And then I opened up Indie Film Hustle right afterwards. That journey, this journey I've been on with Indie Film Hustle for 2 years, I don't particularly have a destination with Indie Film Hustle. So it's taught me to enjoy day by day. And I have goals with Indie Film Hustle. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do that. I wanted to grow in this way. But for me, it's really about the day to day. And that's where I think I always get the deer in the headlights from people when I talk to them about it. Because like, how do you do everything? I'm like, I just do because I enjoy it. I enjoy the grind. And it is a grind. It's not easy, but it's fun for me. Like I wake up in the morning, I'm energetic to go and work on the blog. And when you start hearing things back from people like, your podcast gives me hope, that's powerful. That's like food for the soul, in my opinion. And they're like, hey, because of you, I just made my first feature. So thank you. That's so powerful that I'm making that kind of impact on the world with my little microphone in my room. You know what I mean? It's really, really powerful. And with a little website, it's just a website, with some information on it. But when you connect it all, it really does impact people. So I really enjoy that journey. So when I went down the journey to make a movie, and I don't know how you felt about it before you made your first feature, but you think of like the feature film. It's this mountain that you have to climb, this monstrous mountain. And I had always done that. I was like, oh God, it's like, I got to have this. I got to have that. I got to have this person in it. I got to do this. And I woke up, I'm 20 years in, and I'm like, I got no feature.
Yeah.
And now there's no excuses. Like I could make an excuse 15 years ago. Like it's just too damn expensive. I can't do it. There's no excuse now. None. Mm-hmm. There hasn't been an excuse for probably about 7 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm really
no good excuse.
No good excuse for at least 7 years. So I woke up one morning and said, I'm just gonna go make a movie. And I called up my friend Jill, who's an actress and a comedian. I'm like, hey, I want to make a movie. I want you to be the star of it. And I want let's make a movie about your life, about what you go through as a female comedian in LA, female comedian actress in LA. And she was like, okay. And she wrote a scriptment, which is a very loose, very tight outline, but barely any dialogue. And she hired all her friends. We brought all her friends in, who are all like, Reno 911 and Mad TV and, big actors. And they all came in for favors. And we all literally from the moment the idea was had for me to call her to the point where we had a finished product was less than 5 months total. And during the process was the most enjoyable creative experience of my life because I had no attachment to outcome. If I made no money, great. If I made money, great. It didn't bother me. It didn't mean anything to me because of the budget we were working with. If I have a $500,000 movie, it's a whole other ballgame. Mm-hmm. But for such a small, personal independent film, I was like, hey, whatever happens, happens. And with that attitude, the actors got in and they just started playing. And every one of them were like, wow, this was so much fun. I'm like, yeah, because we just enjoyed ourselves and we flowed. It was a complete experiment in flowing with your chi, flowing with the force, mm-hmm. whatever you want to call it. And if anything happened that I wasn't in the plan, I'm like, let's go. I just literally wherever the waves took me is where we went. And as a filmmaker, you're supposed to control everything. Now, for this kind of movie, it made sense. Mm-hmm. For other kind of movies, other kind of stories, it doesn't. But for this one, it made sense, and that was a plan. We planned to do this with this kind of movie, so that's why it made sense to do it. It was all organized based around our resources and based around the time and the money that we had access to. And that journey was the most, like we literally premiered, the LA premiere was at the Man's Chinese Theater, or whatever it's called now, TCLA, whatever, but the Chinese theater. And, we had a red carpet, I'm like, our little movie's at the Chinese theater. And in all honesty, and I said it there that day, I was like, it's nice. Like, it wasn't it was like before that would have been the thing, like, oh my God, and the whole world would have been revolving around that. But for me, I was like, I'm very grateful. I'm very humbled. It's a wonderful experience, but I'm good. Let's keep going. Like that, it didn't, you know what I mean? It wasn't the end all be all. It was just another step in the journey for me. So for me, it wasn't because there wasn't a goal to get it into a Chinese theater to have a big premiere in LA. That wasn't a main goal for us. Our main goal was just like, hey, let's make a movie. And if anything else happens, it happens. And that's exactly what happened.
It's just that the releasing of the expectation. You're not
There's no
having these high hopes and dreams that this is going to be this and this.
Yeah.
You're just enjoying that journey, enjoying each day on set. Mm-hmm. And like you said, that has been a radical shift for me to have, for most of my career, done freelance work, doing weddings, bar mitzvahs, all the stuff that isn't glamorous at all, and being bossed around and pointed around. Every once in a while having good projects and good clients,
sure,
and developing those. And yeah, client work can be great, but I think it's completely different than walking on set or starting a documentary where you look behind you and there's nobody watching what you're doing. There's nobody looking over your shoulder at your lens to tell you, no, do this, do that. Mm-hmm. It's up to you to execute on that vision. And I think there's not much like it.
There really isn't. And having that freedom was addictive, because now on my next projects, I'm like, well, I'm going to do this again. My goal now is next year, I'm going to try to do probably like 2 or 3 features, which is insane. And I'm going to try to do them in a row, which is even more insane.
You didn't, when you finished your first feature, you weren't like, never again.
No, I was just, for me, it was like, okay, I got to take this the entire way. So for me, when I first finished the feature, I'm like, okay, I went down the festival circuit and, got rejected and got a lot of rejections, got a few people in. We world premiered a CineQuest, which was a really big deal for us. And it was a lot of fun. But I wanted to go down that road, and then also now experience the whole self-distribution aspect of things. Like, how are we going to get this out there? How are we going to do this? So it took me a long time for me to go through this whole process with the movie This Is Meg, because I was just going through like, okay, how am I going to finish? Like, I got to walk this journey before I start another one. And now the journey is pretty much at its end. We're releasing on Hulu. We sold it to Hulu, and it's going to go up October 15th. Like, our little movie got sold to Hulu. That's insane.
It's amazing.
That's insane. Like, when we got the call, we're like, what? Get out of here. No. We were just like throwing it out there to see if anything had happened, and it did.
Yeah.
And now, Jill and I are developing a show around Meg to see if we can pitch that. As well, because it's like, hey, we did it with a feature. Why can't we do it with a show? We don't need a lot of money to do it. Let's go out there and do this.
And this is what's changed too, though. It's not only can you make it, but you can get it in front of a huge audience.
Yeah. So we're trying. So I wanted to go down that road, and I wanted to see what happened. So now that I've done that, I'm like, okay. And during this whole time, by the way, I finished post on a huge show for Hulu, and then I directed a series for Legendary Pictures. That was an 8-episode run. We shot 96 pages in 4 days. It was insane.
I've never heard anything like that before.
Yeah. I did a whole podcast on it. It was it was like, this is how you do it, guys.
Yeah.
And I laid out the techniques that I used to shoot 96 pages in 4 days. It was insanity. No more than 12 hours. 12-hour days.
That's incredible.
It was ridiculous. It was the stupidity. It was the most stupid thing we ever heard. Like, if we come back for season 2, this is not happening, guys. We're not doing this again. And then each episode had like 140 visual effects that we did in a week, each week.
Wow.
So, it was pretty intense. So I did all that. So I was busy doing those things. And then finally, when I got off of those, I'm like, you know what? I got to focus some energy back on Indie Film Hustle. So that's why I started doing that. I'm like, I'm going to take out the rest of this year to do that. I'm doing a bunch of other projects as well. And after the new year, we'll see when I'll launch the next projects. Because I've already been kind of slowly building the arsenal. I don't know about you, but like as a filmmaker, I'm like, I got an idea for a movie. So I got to buy these lenses, and and I got to get these cameras.
Oh yeah.
But I'm slowly just kind of like, and I need this thing in place, and I need that. So I'm one of those guys that like I quietly look like I'm doing nothing, but I'm just constantly putting everything together. So when I pull the trigger, it just goes.
Yeah.
So I'm shooting the next one of my features next year on the pocket camera. The whole feature is going to be shot on the pocket camera, the Blackmagic pocket camera. We're shooting with Russian glass. And I got a whole set of Russian.
My buddy Conrad, who helped me out with the podcast early on, he's like big into like buying lenses from
dude
all over.
I have a problem, and I'm clean now for 3 months. No lenses. Okay, maybe 2.5 months. No lenses because they're so cheap.
Oh my God, yeah.
So like I have, we're talking about $100, $200 at the 200 is like, ooh, God, I'm getting a little crazy. Yeah. Most of them $50, $70, and you put them on, and you're just like, this looks awesome.
Yeah.
So, and I got this set of Russian glass that is just like and it's not like a set. Like I've created this set. And lens geeks out there, you guys will get a kick out of this. I actually got a Canoptic 5.7 mil. Do you know what a Canoptic 5.7?
No.
All right. So, did you ever see Clockwork Orange?
Yeah.
Or The Shining?
Mm-hmm.
So Kubrick used to use a Canoptic 9.8. That's the 35 millimeter version. It is basically the widest lens you can buy without fisheye.
Get out of here.
Yes. So I got the 5.7, which is a 16 millimeter version of it, and put it on the pocket.
Oh.
And oh my God.
That's dope.
Dude, it's insane. It's in mint. I mean, I bought it on eBay mint. Like it came off the factory floor. The front of the lens is flat.
What?
It's flat. It's like straight flat.
Yeah.
So now we're getting to lens geeking, sorry. But so I'm shooting a bunch of stuff with that, and I know what I want to do with it. So I'm starting to play with it. So all these things are going in my head. That's just the way I work as a creative. I just have all these ideas, and I start putting puzzle pieces in place. And then when the puzzle pieces are in place, I'm like, okay, now I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. And then I go. And that's simple.
I like the aspect of adding some constraints to your work too, mm-hmm. where when I went to shoot minimalism and doing a topic on minimalism, I was like, okay, I want to be really thoughtful and intentional. That's the idea behind the film, into what gear I bring. So I'm like, I'm going to shoot everything in this entire film on a 24 millimeter and a 50 millimeter, and that's it. Those are the only lenses I'm going to use. And then, and I did that for the majority of the tour. And then eventually, like, I got to some other shoots where I was like, all right, maybe I'll bring something else in. I think the constraints help a little bit.
Sure.
But then you realize at that point why I might need a 200 millimeter lens, because I don't want to be like, if I'm filming people shopping, I don't want to be running up in their face to get the shot.
Right.
So there's the balance there, but I think it's important to be really intentional. And
yeah, absolutely.
Are you as crazy neurotic as I am before a shoot in terms of figuring out and laying out gear and understanding exactly what you need and exactly what you're going to bring into a shoot?
Yes, to a certain extent. I'm not neurotic about it, but I do check it all. And I, like on Meg, I was the DP on it as well. So I was bringing in all the gear and, setting it all up, my rig the night before to make sure everything I had was in my box. Because I'm like, the thing I didn't want to happen is get out there. I'm like, oh, I don't have that one bolt. Yeah. And I can't do everything I need to do today. And like, you just couldn't do it. Since I didn't have an assistant, I had to be a little bit more anal about it. But overall, no, I'm not that crazy. Just, and actually with Meg, I learned that I need to be a little less minimal. I definitely I brought too much stuff. Mm-hmm. The rig was too bulky and too big, even though it was a small Blackmagic cinema camera. It was just too big of a hog.
You can't just move around as quickly.
Well, I couldn't move. No, it was a hog that was big and it could move quickly because I had it set up, but it was brutal on my body. And just this, everything was just too big. Mm-hmm. So that's why I was like, I'm doing the pocket camera next. Like I'm going to go smaller. And I own a mini Ursa Mini, which is a 4.6 cams. It's their red version, their red or their Alexa. So it's a big camera. And it shoots beautiful images, but I was like, no, not this one. And the next one I will, but not this one.
You got to know what you're shooting and why you're shooting it.
Right tool for the right project. Yeah. And that's a thing a lot of people don't understand either. Like when I tell people I'm going to shoot something on a Blackmagic Pocket, they're like, but it's 1080p. I'm like, and?
Yeah.
Like,
where am I going to be putting this? Where is this going to be seen by people? Is it going to theaters?
Even if it goes to theaters, I can bump it up to a 2K, which is all I need for a DCP, which is what we did on Meg. Mm-hmm. I saw it projected. I was like, this looks amazing.
Yeah.
and if I have to bump it up, I'll bump it up.
The only difference I see is you can tell mostly with like motion graphics. When motion graphics, when they get scaled up, they tend to look a little bit grainy, not as
exactly. But if you're gonna bump up, you can redo the motion graphics if you need to. So
But for the most part, video you could scale up fine. Like I saw our film in theaters; it was 1080p. It looked fine. It was great.
It's great. People just get caught up with this K bullshit so much. It's like all the Ks and the this and the how many pixels, and I'm like, dude, just tell a story, man. No one gives a shit about the camera.
Yeah. Also, because when you look at the progression of our work, and we were talking about early podcasts you'd done, I look at early work that I'd done. You grow so much so quickly if you're doing consistent work. If you're putting out short film after short film, it doesn't matter what you shot on that early version on, because it was more about making a bunch of projects that were okay, that were pretty good. Maybe you killed it on one of them, but it's more of learning and bringing that skill to that next project.
Like I was with Meg, when I'm sure you felt this way. Most filmmakers do. Is like my first film has to come out the gate like like a freaking racehorse, man. We got a boom. It's an explosion. We got to have Reservoir. We've got to have a mariachi. We got to have, something that just blows everyone out the water. And that dialogue in my head kept me from doing anything for so many years, where I finally said, I don't care anymore. I'm just going to make a movie. And Meg is my first feature film. And is it the most I can do as a filmmaker? No, because it was an experiment as an artist of what I wanted to do with that project at that time. I'm actually known more for actions and more elaborate world building and other things. I've done that with my shorts and commercials, but I just decided I'm not going to wait around anymore. And it's been the best experience, like I said, in my life to do it. And I didn't care that it's going to, you start getting into your ego, whereas like in your filmography, what's the first, like no one gives a fuck, dude. Get out of your own head, dude. Yeah. And I literally just finished today that Tony Scott article where I literally went through his entire career. And I was, formatting and getting it ready for the podcast, for the blog. And I just started looking at the man's history and his projects. And when you just look at it from a distance for a minute, it was so humbling to see, like, he started in the 60s. His first movie is it's not like a great thing. His first feature was The Hunger. The Hunger is really a good movie. If you ever seen The Hunger with David Bowie about vampires. And you look at it and like, it's a really good movie, but it's not like, it didn't blow everybody out of the water when it came out. Like no one really what made Tony Scott was basically Top Gun. Top Gun was the thing and you know why he got Top Gun? From a commercial he did that shot a plane. He actually just shot a plane landing like an F-16. And Bruckheimer said, oh, he knows how to shoot planes. Let's give him Top Gun. Wow. And, mind you, he had a lot of commercials under his belt and he was, a commercial director, but they said that was the clincher, so it wasn't his first feature that got him his work. It was a commercial he did. So it's so fascinating, and same thing for Ridley Scott's first movie, The Duelist, the man made Blade Runner and Alien. Those are the movies that he'll be remembered for. But his first movie was The Duelist, which is a good movie, but you just got to get going, get started and get out of your own way is my biggest piece of advice for people in any world and anything you're doing. Don't get caught up in all that, like how people are going to look at me or how people are going to receive me. I'm like, just do it. Because if you do it, you're doing more than 99.9% of the people out there talking about it.
Yeah.
And that's such a big thing.
I think you want to make something as great as you possibly can, but don't let perfection stop you from getting started.
It's the worst. It's an illness. Perfectionism is an illness in the creative field. Because we all want everything to look perfect. We want everything to sound perfect. Like you were talking to me, like you edit your podcast. I don't, and I'm like, I just tell my guests, I'm like, we're just going to roll. Yeah. And unless, you literally want me something cut out or something really, goes wrong technically, I'm just going to let this go. And it has not hurt my situation at all. So then, that extra 3-4 hours I would be editing, I could be doing something else.
Yeah, that's a dream for me. Well, I think what I want to get to is actually doing this live.
Yes.
But I want to keep the video up, but like at some point, I think you're right. Perfection is an illusion. Like it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. I mean, you can spend days and days, and I'm the guy that just goes a pixel, a pixel, a pixel. on everything,
Yeah.
because I'm a post guy. So I've been editing for all my life,
Yeah.
for all my professional life, and I've been a colorist. So I'm really into that kind of like kind of perfection thing. But it stops you. It slows you down in a lot of ways. So you just gotta go. A lot of people. I use this filmmaker as an example, Robert Rodriguez, who one of my heroes growing up, and a lot of people bag on him a lot and his work and this and that. But the man has directed 20 features, has built an entire empire for himself. He runs a network. He owns and runs a network right now, doing whatever he wants whenever he wants. Isn't that kind of the dream as a creative, to do whatever you want whenever you want, have the resources to do it? I don't think he gives a crap.
No.
And he just does it. And if I would be asked the question, should you do that movie? I'm like, I probably wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have done that. But he doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
And that attitude is so wonderful, because he just doesn't care. And that lack of care, not meaning that his work is horrible or anything like that, but he just does it. Woody Allen has made a movie a year for 30 years. There is no filmmaker who has done that. He just makes it every year. There's a Woody Allen movie that comes out all the time. And some are good. Some are masterpieces. Some are bad. But that's art. Mm-hmm. Picasso wasn't perfect every time. And neither was, any of the, Michelangelo, Da Vinci, and none of them. They all just did. Some are better, some are worse. But every time you do one, you move forward. You move forward, as opposed to thinking about it or talking about it or creating other bullshit to stop yourself. There's enough obstacles in this business without you throwing more in front of yourself.
What were some of the early mistakes? I wonder if there's maybe one or two mistakes that you made early on.
You don't have a long enough podcast for that, but go ahead.
Yeah. Say like early on when you're just getting started, you're directing your first feature. Are there mistakes that you made that stand out to you that you would share with up and coming filmmakers?
The mistake of Meg, like any mistakes I made on Meg, or earlier on in my career?
That, or even earlier on when you first started directing. Like definitely when I think you're getting started out, there are potential pitfalls that people can fall into. Kind of like what we were saying, where you're just seeking perfection.
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest mistake that filmmakers make is, I'm not sure it's a mistake, but the thing that is the biggest dragon you've got to slay is ego. Ego is a huge, huge, huge problem for everybody in every aspect of life. But in the film industry, even more so, especially directors, and filmmakers, because especially when you're young, when you're 20s, I know a lot of 20 years old are a lot more advanced than I was when I was 20. There's just more information out there and all that kind of stuff. But 20-year-olds are still 20-year-olds. I've yet to meet one and I'm sure there are, don't get me wrong, but I have met some very accomplished ones. I'm not bagging on 20-year-olds, trust me. But they just don't have the life experience yet. And no amount of intelligence will give you that. So you need that experience and the world beating you up, because the ego will take you down the paths that you should not go down. And what the ego, and this is a great analogy for the ego. You've had a wonderful meal. You've ate this delicious meal, and you're stuffed. You went to In-N-Out. You had a double.
Yeah.
You got
Mistakes were made.
Mistakes were made, but you're stuffed. Then someone goes, "Hey, let's go get some cheesecake." And you're like, and this is where the inner dialogue happens. He's like, "Nah, go ahead, get the cheesecake. You just work out a little bit more tomorrow. You'll be fine." Because the ego wants that. Mm-hmm. So you go and eat it. And that night you get home. You're taking your clothes off and you look in the mirror. And that same voice goes, "You fat piece of shit. Yeah. Why did you eat that piece of cheesecake?" What the fuck? Dude, you just told me to go eat it. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. You're a fat fuck now. Look at you. That voice, controlling that voice, ignoring it and becoming its boss. And it's a struggle on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. It's a struggle on a daily basis. Every day is a new war. Every day is a new battle that you've got to win with that voice inside of you, that ego. And I think that's where so much so much horror in the world happens because of that. But generally, if we're talking about the film industry, so many mistakes are made, so many careers are derailed and destroyed, and lives are destroyed because of this ego. And I've been very close to it. I've seen it in other filmmakers. Having that perspective of working in post-production and probably finishing about 50 features in my day, seeing up close and personal those battles and the egos and the delusions of grandeur, another thing people got to worry about. I mean,
well, I think that's the most important thing that we can do is to help people to not go down that path, because it seems like that's our human nature.
Only more experienced, more skilled people who have gone down this road and have actually tried to, and believe me, I'm no guru by any stretch. I'm still dealing with stuff on a daily basis myself. But you kind of learn how to let go of some things, and you start learning how to maneuver that situation and handle the ego. But the ego pops its head, man. And the thing is that the ego never sleeps. It's always there. That voice in your head is always there, no matter what. So you can maybe have a 3-month run, 4-month run. You're good. But the moment there's a sense of weakness, just a little bit, that's when it pounces. So imagine having a dude that's, a 250-pound MMA fighter that sits next to you every day, all day, waiting for you just to fall asleep or to turn the other way to clock you upside the head. That's who you're dealing with on a daily basis. And you always have to have your guard up against it. But that moment, which happens, you're like, I'm tired. Poof, there it is. And you just got smacked in the head. You're like, son of a bitch. And then it's one punch is not that big of a deal, but if you just let it keep going, that's where the problems go. You start going down the wrong path.
Do you have any mindfulness practices, things that bring you back on course? Because I think we all do this. Most of us do this, especially those who are trying to be more mindful, where you have a good run, you're doing good, I'm eating healthy, and I'm kind of defeating that voice.
Yes.
And then you go traveling for a week, and then you come back,
dude.
and then you're just off of it for 3 months. Where
because you got derailed a second.
Yeah.
You have to become so strong in the head, in the mind. The mind has to have a strength and an ability to overcome that, and that's the struggle that you have to deal with. What do? I just, at this point in the game, I just scare the hell out of myself. I'm like, if you don't do this is what's going to happen to you. If you don't keep doing this is what's going to happen to you. Mm-hmm. If you keep eating this way, you're going to die. Mm-hmm. You're going to go diabetic. You're going to go this or that, and as you get older, these things start creeping in more and more and more. Like when you're 20, dude, I was living on Taco
anything.
Bell. I was living on Taco Bell at 3:00 in the morning when I was 25, dude. That was that was college food. You know what I mean? So I was like, shit, whatever. I'm indestructible. Woohoo! And, it's Baryshnikov had a great saying. When you're young, you challenge your body. When you get older, your body challenges you. And that's, it's so true. Mm-hmm. No matter who you are, we all go through it. No matter how good you take care of yourself, at a certain point, the body, and you could do a lot of things to help yourself along the way, and there's a lot of things you could do to hurt yourself along the way.
Sure.
But as far as mindful practices, I just scare the living hell out of myself, because I know,
as the Buddha would want.
As the Buddha would want, I literally just scare the hell out of myself because I have the wonderful wealth of experience in my life, in my journey, that I can pull from. So I'm like, you remember that time when you fucked up? That's going to happen to you again. And I can pull from that. When you're younger, you don't have those things. So you have to come up with other things. So I've made so many mistakes. I've stumbled so many times that I can constantly pull from a well of crap that I have in my past and go, that's what's going to happen to you if you don't just keep going down this road. Mm-hmm. So stop it. And also a lot of it, honestly, my meditation is Indie Film Hustle, if that makes any sense, because I spend so much time on it that, creating all this content is a meditation, because you just sit there, you're one with the content. You just sit there and you create and you create and you create and you create, and it keeps things flowing.
I think it's also you're creating meaningful content. You're creating
Correct.
Something that is connecting with other people that you're learning from. You're writing or creating a podcast. I think these are ways for us to better understand ourselves. Mm-hmm. Because before I started writing, before I started doing this podcast, a lot of the thoughts just stay in your head. And if you want to make changes to your life, if say you want to pick up a workout routine or a better eating habits, the best thing you can do is just start to write down what you're doing right now, what you can do in the future, and what you want out of yourself.
No, absolutely. Without question.
I want to talk about the traditional film industry
Sure.
versus the indie film industry and why indie film exists. So yeah, I'm new to Hollywood, so walk me through it. What's been happening all these years?
So, as far as this is a big question. We're talking about decades of stuff here. So when do you want
to? We could talk about the current film industry because obviously a lot is changing, but I'm curious about how it's structured. Who are the gatekeepers of the traditional film industry? And I imagine you might put it at a certain threshold or certain studios that develop films that would be called the industry.
So for me, the big change happened in basically 89 when Steven Soderbergh's Sex, Lies, and Videotape won Sundance. That was the first time that I can remember, other than Easy Rider and things like that, but there wasn't an industry. That was more of a fluke. There wasn't an industry behind that. And when I say Easy Rider, Dennis Hopper's movie, he made a movie outside the studio system for like $175,000, about a bunch of hippies running around, doing stuff, and the studios were, they were making Star Wars. Like they had no idea what the hell. I don't think they had made Star Wars yet. Excuse me. They were still figuring things. 70s was really bad for the studios because they just didn't understand how to connect with the younger audience. So that's like, what do we do? What do we do? Like, well, these guys are in film school. Let's open the doors to them. And they gave the keys to the inmates, and the inmates started running the asylum. And that's what happened with Scorsese, Spielberg, Coppola, these kind of guys. They were given free range. That moment in time is gone now. But for that moment, that's how they did it. And then when the 90s came into play, that's where independent film as we know it today kind of started, in my opinion, where films like Mariachi, Clerks, She's Gotta Have It, Slacker, all these movies were being done by independent voices outside of the studio system, and they weren't making a lot of money. It's not like they made, a ton of money. Mariachi made like $1.5 million, $2 million. Clerks probably pulled in $1 million or something like that, $1 million or $2 million. These guys weren't making mad money yet, but that was starting of the industry. And for a while, there was a lot of money in the indie world, money being put in, money putting in. Till the crash of 99, then again the crash of 2008, where things really radically changed. After the crash of 2008, the technology started getting so cheap that now anybody can go make a movie. And then the Blair Witch Project came into play in the 90s, which was very instrumental in this whole thing. Paranormal Activity also came in later. The Saw movies, which were studio but still very low budget. These movies all started coming in. People started saying, hey, wait a minute, I could go do this. So the gatekeepers in the traditional world is this. Right now, there's a handful of studios. There's probably five big studios, and you could argue that Lionsgate's a mini studio. There's a couple of these little mini studios out there. But these guys they're all businesses now. They're not run by filmmakers anymore. They're run by conglomerates. They're monster things. Before, the studios were run by actual filmmakers, by people who were in, that's all their business was. Universal's owned, I don't know if they're owned by Bacardi anymore. They're owned by NBC. I don't know who owns who anymore. But, they're run by, Coca-Cola or, a soft drink company or a liquor company, or a news organization, whatever. They're not filmmakers. So what they do is they go, okay, well, we have all this new competition out there with streaming and everything else. What are we going to do? Well, we have to create spectacle. So now, before they used to make 30 or 40 movies a year. Now they make 5, but those 5 cost them $150 to $200 million plus about $100 million in P&A money. Promotions and advertising money. So they're rolling the dice on less product, but the bigger product it is. So that's why all we see coming out of Hollywood is generally reboots, established properties, because those are risk avert. They're being very risk avert. They don't want to take any risks. So when a movie like Deadpool shows up, and they literally were forced to make Deadpool, like literally were forced, and they gave them $30 million, which in the studio system is nothing.
Yeah.
And with that $30 million, that movie literally beat every superhero movie, not only of that year, But I think other than the Marvel stuff, it beat most of the Marvel stuff. Not the big stuff, but like a lot of the low. It beat every X-Men movie ever, which is insane.
Yeah.
It beat so many, Fantastic Fours, all this kind of stuff, and people were like, "What the hell happened?" I'm like, "Oh wow, an original idea. People really want to go to an original movie. It was originally marketed. It was good. You can see that there was no studio involvement. Like they just kind of like, oh, let's let them do what they want to do." And because of that, look what happened. But generally speaking, we got...
And that doesn't change much.
It changes a little bit.
A little bit?
Well, look at it. It changed a bunch of stuff for us now, because now it's a new property, but it's low budget. That cost me $35 million to make. It cost $35 million to make. And it's made gazillions of dollars now.
So much money. It's a great movie, too.
So the thing is that studios I'm hoping, and I think there's always going to be the tentpole. They always have to have the spectacle. I'm going to go see the Star Wars movie coming out. I'm going to go see Blade Runner. I'm going to go see these big tentpole movies because they're fun. But at the end of the day, what YouTube has shown us and what streaming has shown us is that an hour and a half of your time can be taken up by something that costs $5 or $500 million. At the end of the day, it's the same thing. And that's what scares the shit out of the studio system. Because a guy like you or I shooting this little podcast could maybe get 5 million, which would be amazing, but get 5 million viewers to watch it. That's more than most television shows. And it cost $20 to make.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the difference.
Yeah, you're completely right. Time is time.
Consuming content is the same. If I consume a $300 million piece of content or a $3 piece of content, it's still an hour and a half of my time. The advertisers who want to get my eyeballs on them, it's the same thing. That's why these YouTubers have so much power now, because they realize they're like, oh, well, if I'm going to watch videos, I can produce them for so little. The whole world has changed right now in a way that everyone's still trying to figure out, because it's changing faster than anyone's figuring it out. So the thing is to try to be a little bit ahead of the curve, just a little bit ahead of the curve. But when Netflix showed up, that opened the door. Now Amazon threw their hat in the ring. Now Hulu's there. Now Apple's throwing their hat in the ring. AT&T has their own channel. Everyone's got their own channels now. So now I think there's 450 scripted shows going on right now. That's insane. A year? That's insanity. But look at all the opportunities there are now for filmmakers.
This has got to be a huge moment for content creators.
It is, and it's not going to get any less. Like, it's not like we're going to create less content in the future. It's only going to be more content. But we are going to get to a point, I think, that, look, when I was growing up, the cartoons I had were what they were. Transformers were Transformers. G.I. Joes were G.I. Joes. And that was pretty much it. You waited for Saturday morning, and that was the end of it. My daughters have instantaneous access to millions of hours of entertainment that they would be interested in. Millions of hours. So what's going to happen to their kids? They're going to have billions of hours of content, because of the next 30 years, how much content is going to be created? How many shows are going to be created? And some of it will go out of favor, because it'll be like, oh, that's older technology and we don't want to watch that. But a lot of it will keep going.
It's all going to be there. It's all going to be in the cloud. Everything's going to be accessible.
Right.
With like a $10 subscription.
Right.
And much of it can be available for nothing. So that obviously is a huge predicament for content creators. Like, how do you...
But the content creators is one thing, but imagine the studios who, like, their entire business is run on these big movies that people aren't going... This summer was the worst summer in, I think, a decade, because the studios made no money. Like, it was a horrific summer for the studio system. It's really bad. And there's only so many more... I mean, I'm going to see every Star Wars movie they make because I'm a Star Wars fan. But there's only so much of that. People will get tired of it. People will get tired of unoriginal stuff. People will get tired of comic book movies. I think what Spielberg said is true, that the superhero movie will go the way of the Western. It will happen one day, because there's only so many times we can watch Spider-Man. There's only so many times we can watch the Avengers reboot. We can only watch so many times. It will eventually wane. I don't think it's happening right now. It probably won't happen for another 20, 30 years, but eventually it'll go away. I think I don't know. I don't think that train's gonna go forever. I'm super happy because when I was growing up, we had Superman in the 70s, we had Batman, and I think Blade showed up in the 90s, and then the X-Men, and then that's when it started happening. But we waited years between superhero movies. Now there's one every week, $200 million one,
Yeah.
I
do love understanding the history, and it seems like you have a pretty good grasp on it, but looking at what happened to Westerns, seeing what's happening right now with the big superhero movies.
Dude, the Westerns, that was all there was for a period of time. TV, there was 5-10 Westerns on. Movies, there was all these Westerns, and all that content's still available, though, like the Western series. All that was there. So the writing is on the wall. That's a genre that opened up, and I think we're getting to a point, I think Logan is probably one of the best superhero genre movies ever, and what did it do? It basically took a Western and remade it, which was and they blatantly said it, we're disashamed, and this is great. And it was one of the best movies I've seen this year, without question. But it's getting to a point where you have to evolve the platform. There's only so much more times you can see superhero come out and save the day or beat up
because you know where it's going.
Where it's going.
There's always a couple twists sometimes here and this way and that.
And then look, I'm looking forward to the Avengers. I can't wait to see the new Avengers with everybody in it. It's going to be good. But after that's done, what's next?
Right, you can't just add another star, add another superhero.
You will go down. Eventually, it will go down.
But
it will go down eventually. I don't I don't think it's going to happen for another 20 years. How many more Star Wars movies are we going to see? I think what I would do if I was the Star Wars universe, because what are they doing right now? They're doing a Han Solo movie. They're going to do an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie. They're thinking about doing a Boba Fett movie. I'm all they're doing is just rehashing the old shit. They're scared to go down a new path, which they did in the main trilogy, which is great, but they're not taking risks outside yet, and that's fine. They're still early on in their universe building, as they are, after Lucas, post Lucas. But I want to go to the Old Republic. I want to go when the Force started. Can you imagine that movie? No characters we know. It's all about when the Force began. When the Jedis were showing up for the first time. Can you imagine a set of 6 movies? That could easily cover 6 movies. Mm-hmm. Just that journey of and you can connect them to Skywalker if you want somewhere. I don't care. But you can connect, go back 4,000 years. And that's the kind of story I would like to see. Because it's brand new. It's fresh. It's something, it still hits the nostalgia, but it's completely fresh. But it's risky. And I don't think it's that big of a risk personally.
How many hours of sleep do you get a day? Because I feel like you consume a lot of content and you're creating just a ton of stuff and a ton of amazing, meaningful work. How much do you sleep a night?
I personally, currently, I sleep probably about 5 or 6 hours a night.
Yeah.
Recently, I'll go to bed at 9:30, 10. 10's woo, girl, what's going on? And I've been waking up anywhere between 3 and 5 every day.
3?
Yeah, I woke up 3 yesterday.
Do you set an alarm or do you just wake up?
No, I just wake up.
You just wake up.
And if I wake up, I'm it's the world telling me I gotta get to work.
Yeah.
Because I can't go back to sleep. Because the mind will start kicking. I'm I got this post to do and that's supposed to do, and I gotta work on this. I gotta work that. So that's where I am right now, currently in my journey.
And what's the routine in the morning?
I wake up, I go, I do my stuff, and then I go into my office and I just start working. And I wish I was a little bit more organized, but I just go whatever's on the plate, let's go.
Yeah, right to work.
And I just go do, check my stats, check what's going in, and let's just keep going. Mm-hmm. And that's my current mode right now because I'm in the mode of really building up Indie Film Hustle to a bigger place, so where it can produce more for me and I can produce more for my audience. To next year will be a little bit different when I start working on my films. Things will start probably slowing down a little bit, or I'll front end a bunch of stuff that'll last me the 3 months that I might be off shooting, so I can constantly keep going. I put a tremendous amount of pressure on myself. I do a couple masterminds. I do, and if your audience doesn't know what mastermind is, you get together with like-minded people who are in your business or industry, or sometimes not even, and you talk about your problems, you talk about what you're doing, and you share advice, you share techniques, things like that to help you. And the guys that are in my mastermind, they all run websites and they all do similar stuff that we do, that I do, have podcasts and things like that. And I tell them, I'm like, yeah, man, I'm slacking this week. I'm just, I only get like three or four articles out this week. And they're like, dude, are you fucking insane?
Yeah.
I'm like, I only did 2 podcasts this week. I really wanted to do 3. Like, you're crazy, dude. Like, we do 1 every 2 weeks. I'm like, but that's fine. That's you. Like, I'm just the way I am. I just want to keep going. Because the thing is with me is I know every little piece of content I put out, every podcast episode that goes out is another soldier to go out and get the word out. So now that soldier goes off into the universe and finds people to bring them back, to listen to the podcast, to consume more content, to help more people. And that's what drives me, because every new article, because I see what happens. Some soldiers don't do well.
They don't come back.
Some soldiers just don't come back. Yeah. But other ones do. And the majority of them do in one way, shape, or form. Even if they bring 1 or 2 people back, that's 1 or 2 people that had not been exposed to my message, what I'm trying to do, and trying to help people out there. So, and filmmakers out there specifically. But that's what kind of drives me. So I do that. Like yesterday I woke up at 3, worked until 6:30, took care of my kids, and I worked until 6. So I probably pulled in like a 12, 13 hour day yesterday. I don't even think twice. And then I still watch TV at night. I rest. I have, spend time with my family, eat dinner, take care of them, and go to bed. And so for me, I always remember the days when I didn't have a family, when I was just alone. I used to do a lot more.
Yeah, like 20 articles a week.
I did a lot more stuff. So I look at myself, I'm like, damn, I'm slacking.
Yeah.
But once you start building the systems in and you start figuring things out, after doing this for 2 years now, and with like I told you with the podcast, like it doesn't take me a long time to produce a podcast anymore. You told me how long it takes you to do one, and God bless you. Yeah.
That's why I only do 1 a week.
Yeah, I do 2 a week, sometimes 3, depending on what I'm doing. But the content's solid, and it's not just I'm not throwing out garbage. I'm not BuzzFeed. Not that BuzzFeed's bad, but they throw everything out because that's their business. That's what they do. They're bringing everything out. So I try to create as much great content as possible. But that is my morning routine. I do want to, after, I think in October sometime, I'm going to finally start going back to the gym. Sure. And probably start trying to get more back into meditation, which is something I do miss doing. But I'm in such a hyper-focused mode. It's just so difficult.
I want to see if that's possible. I haven't quite figured it out yet. When I was editing minimalism and working hardcore on that, and even now my schedule is so freed up that I can go to the gym. But during that time when I was just crazy work mode, it's like I only have a certain amount of bandwidth, and my mind can only be focused on a certain amount of tasks at once. I would love to get to the point where I could go to the gym, be healthy, and meditate every day, do all these things, eat healthy, and then still execute and create amazing work. And maybe that's a possibility, but right now it's tough.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that happened to me during Meg. I was about 25 pounds heavier than I am now, and I was still doing a lot of stuff. Like, fascinating how much I was doing back then. But I decided I had to change my diet. I had to change the way I looked at food in my life. So I decided to change it. And when I did, when I lost the weight, my whole world changed, because now my mind became super focused, and now I can produce more. And I'm like, oh, this is what I need to. So it's not an option for me not to eat healthy. Like, I have to. I have no choice, because if I don't eat healthy, I can't produce. If I can't produce, I can't put food on the table for my family, and I can't at the level that I want to be at, not at the level that other people want me to be at, but the level that I want to be at, which is at a very high level. I have to feed this engine and make this engine work as good as humanly possible, which is by taking good care of it, by eating it. And now the next levels are going to be getting back into the gym and also starting to do even 10-minute meditations, just something to start trying to focus even more. And I know I'll get much more benefit out of that as well.
What's the best thing you've done, or I guess the most impactful thing you've done to grow your audience?
Podcast.
The podcast.
Yeah, podcast.
How did you get people to come to the podcast to start listening?
I
just make good shit.
Just make good shit. I know it's hard. Like, and someone asked Quentin Tarantino, like, how do you break into the business? Like, make Reservoir Dogs. That's a badass movie. Everyone just pissed off. I'm like, that's fucking genius. He's right. Make a good ass movie. You're gonna get in the business.
Yeah.
Yeah, I created it. No, because there's a lot of good stuff out there that doesn't get any eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been able to get people to look at stuff I'm doing. It's just it's something inbred in me. Like I just got it inside of me that I know how to make noise, and I know how to get people to come. And then I also know how to position things to get people to come. So a perfect example is I have a good friend of mine named Scott McMahon who runs filmtrooper.com. He has a podcast as well. He wrote a book called Surviving the Hollywood Implosion, where he's talking about like when Hollywood will implode, and like Spielberg says, the whole business is going to implode on itself. And I believe there is a sense of truth to that, but he wrote a whole book about it. So I had him on the show. And he has a podcast. It's, he doesn't get as many downloads as I do, and he's been doing it much longer than I have. And he's the nicest. I love him. He's amazing. But he always was fascinated with like, how do you do everything you do? So I'm like, all right, let's get you on the show. So I got him on the show, and I put him on and this was early on. This is, I don't know, episodes in the 70s or something like that, 60s, 70s. And I positioned it in a way that I'm like, hey, learn how to survive the Hollywood implosion with Scott McMahon. And that was the name of the podcast. And it went bonkers because everybody was like, what's Hollywood? What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And when I showed it to him, I go, here are the numbers. And he's like, motherfucker, that's my title. Why have I never used it? I'm like, because your mind doesn't think that way.
Yeah.
You have to think in a way of getting people enticed to read your stuff, to listen to your stuff, and then know where to go and put it.
The trouble I have is not going too far down the BuzzFeed route, where it's too catchy, too clickbaity. Exactly.
There's a balance.
Sure,
there's a balance.
And
but
how do you meet that balance? Because I could see.
Oh yeah,
I think that's what hurts people. I mean, you have to create, say, a title or the name of a course that's really going to pull people in, but that also doesn't deceive them as to what they're getting.
Correct. So that's the balance that I try to use, where I try to have that clickbaity approach sometimes, but not as spammy. Mm-hmm. But there's something good behind it.
Sure.
And so that's the difference. It's marketing. To get someone to click on something, but you got to have the goods when you get there, because if you don't, they go to your site. This is something that a lot of people don't get. They're like, I just want to get traffic. Like, no, dude, you don't want to get traffic. You need to get qualified people who really are interested in what you're saying. So if you can get them to click, you can bring them into your ecosystem, and then they can start reading all their stuff. But if you make them look, dude, like that was what happened with YouTube. YouTube originally, you put a thumbnail of a hot chick and people were clicking, and then before you would rank based on clicks, and YouTube got keen to that a little bit in, because people were just gaming the system. People were getting because if you put a hot chick on something, someone's going to click. All these dudes are going to click on it. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't have anything of any
monkeys.
Value. We are fairly easily.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but if you're able to get them to click, not deceivingly either. I never deceive anybody with my marketing tactics, if you mm-hmm. will. I try never to, because it just hurts you at the end. At the end of the day, if you promise something and don't deliver on it, they're not going to trust you. Yeah. And they're not going to want to come back and consume anything that you're trying to create. And that might be a disservice to them and a disservice to yourself. So why do that? So there is that balance of getting them to click, getting them excited, but also having the goods at the end. And that's where a lot of these BuzzFeed kind of style sites lose themselves. The no film schools of the world and these kind of places that are all like gear and this and that and look at this and look at this hot thing. And a lot of times there's not a lot of substance behind it, and it's mm-hmm. just about getting traffic. So Google ads will run more.
It's all about the growth. It's all about the profit.
Yeah. It's all about getting money, and I don't do that. My stuff is much more organic. I could have grown much faster of doing other things, but I didn't. Mm-hmm. I decided to go down this path, which is a longer path. But by doing it, now I have this, I have almost over 500 pieces of content on the site in 2 years. So that's an insane amount of work, and I haven't always been pumping it out at 5 a week or mm-hmm. 7 a week or 10 a week, whatever I do now. So I was used to do 1 a week or 2 a week or something like that. So having that much content, now I have this very, very solid foundation, but that takes time. And that's the one other thing I can say to anyone listening. The biggest piece of advice is you have to understand that anything you do will take time. There is no overnight successes. You can't have a 1-year plan. You have to have a 10-year plan. And that's just the way it is. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry. It's just the way the world works. I don't want. I wish I could have just. I wish right now, after I leave here, I can go down to the studio and start my $200 million epic. That's not happening. That's not the way the world works right now for me. But you can get to that point, but it will take time to build that world for yourself. And the more you build the world, the more you have to fall back on. If that makes any sense. Yeah. So if you're cheating and you're cutting the lines and all this kind of stuff, trying to get, and I tried doing it for years, trying to hack the system. At a certain point, when you look back, you got nothing to fall back on because all you've been doing is dodging and weaving. But when you have this base, this foundation that you've built up for yourself, that's why I really have a new sense of fearlessness because of Indie Film Hustle. Because I'm like, oh, if that doesn't work, I'll just go back. I have Indie Film Hustle. That's my base now. That's my safety net. As weird as that sounds, my podcast, my blog, my YouTube channel, those are my safety nets. So as a filmmaker, I'm fearless now. I'll just go out and do something. I don't give a shit if it doesn't come out great. Look, man, I didn't make it. This is why it didn't work. Here's a podcast on it. Here's a course on how I didn't make it. Why this didn't work?
That's great. That's a great mentality.
That's just the way I look at things now. Yeah. And it's opened the door for me in such a huge way I can't even explain to you doing Indie Film Hustle. I'm connected with people who would have never in a million years, I would have never been able to get to in a million years.
I think it sounds like one of the most important things you've done is to start with integrity and start with...
Amazing, right?
Right. Because if you lose your integrity, it is really hard to get it back, come back.
And you know what? It's tough. Look, it's not been perfect the entire journey on Indie Film Hustle. There's sometimes you're like, oh, I just did this. Oh, I just did that. And you get addicted to numbers and you want to do this, this, and this. I get it. But I finally settled in a place where I'm like, this is how I'm going to do this. Mm-hmm. And this is how it's going to happen.
Right. Because just like there's the rat race of the 9-to-5 world, there is a rat race to the clicks and the views and the downloads.
It's killing our news system.
It is. Yeah.
It's all about the clicks. It's all about getting people excited and getting them to click. And that's all it's about. But the substance is gone. So when you actually connect with someone, and you don't have to have a huge audience, you could have 1,000 people who really love what you're doing, and you can make a very good living doing that. Mm-hmm.
I think
the 1,000 fan rule.
Yeah, exactly. And just don't be greedy. Just be happy and content with what you have.
You know what? This is another thing that people get so caught up with is like, I really don't care about being a millionaire. I don't care about, making millions and billions of dollars. It doesn't interest me. What interests me is having enough money where I'm comfortable. I've provided for my family. And I have, a bunch of savings that will protect us if something goes wrong.
And a couple of jet skis. Just because...
I've never been on one. So
you haven't experienced that.
I mean, for me, it's like, a life-size Hulk. But that's just me.
Yeah.
I just...
That's the thing, yeah.
That's the thing. But, yeah, but I don't... I gave up on that. And not that I wouldn't like that, and it's great, but it's not important to me. It's more important to just be financially stable, have enough for my family. And if I'm able to do all of that, and do my art and create and be an artist, that's the dream. That's the dream. The dream is not to live in the Hollywood Hills with, 4 Porsches, servants, and, live in a mansion that has 15 rooms that you'll never get to. What's the point of all that? Who am I talking to? You made a movie about minimalism, for God's sakes. Yeah. But that's not the goal for me. And I think that mind change, that mind shift that I did years ago kind of just opened that door for me. So now opportunities are coming in. Now things are coming into my life that I would never had when I was just holding on to that. Like I never look at anything I do now with I need the money. I'm like, no, the money comes. Just let me enjoy the opportunity if the opportunity shows up. Mm-hmm. I'm not dumb either. I mean, I'm going to negotiate a deal. Financially, so I can get paid for my time as a director. But it's not the driving force. Where a lot of creatives, their driving force is money. So when you get out of that space, and it's not easy. Look, it's not easy when you have you can't pay rent, you can't do this, but it's possible.
That should be the target, because when you're starting out, like you said, sometimes you just got to take the job. Sometimes you just need to make the money and
Absolutely.
Do a project for the money's sake.
Dude, I did that, but I'm at a different stage in my career.
Yeah.
And I'm at a different stage in my life. When I first got here 10 years ago, I worked nonstop because I was doing everything that showed up at my door. Everything. The good, the bad, the ugly. It was all in because I was just hustling, making money. Gotta go. Now I'm at a point in my career where I don't have to do that anymore. And that takes time to be in that place. But I've done it. I've done it a lot, and you have to do it when you're starting out. You have to work for free when you start out to get in the door and start doing this and start doing that. All of that, but I'm just at a different place in my career at this point. Because if you're in 30 years, or I'm not 30 years, but if you're in 20 years and you're still doing that kind of hustle, you've got to figure some stuff out, man. Mm-hmm. You've got to start like, okay, what am I doing wrong here? Because I shouldn't have to be working this hard. What is the mindset? And the other thing with a lot of people is that they're afraid of what will happen if they don't do it. Like, so what are you afraid of? And this is when Stoic philosophy comes into play. What are you afraid of happening to you? Like, okay, so if I don't take this job, I'm not going to have this money. Well, where do you live? Well, I live in this amazing place. I'm like, well, do you need to live in this amazing place? Again, I'm preaching to the guy who made minimalism. But do you need that place?
This is perfect for my audience.
Like, what do you really need? And what's the goal? So that mentality is what I took into making the movie. I'm like, what do I need? I need a camera. I need sound. I took it straight down to the minimal things that you need to make a movie. And that's what we did. There was no, my actress was my slate girl and the craft service table. I was camera, I was DP, I was the gaff. I had the guy holding the boom because he wasn't a sound guy because I literally just showed him how to use the recorder before he got there.
I've done that. Yeah.
And it worked, and because I did enough research to figure it out, I taught myself. But you have to figure out what is the minimal things. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm hungry. Like, well, what's the worst food that you can buy when you're broke? Like, do it to yourself. Mm-hmm. And that will teach you not to be afraid of something. So if you're afraid, I'm like, man, if I only eat rice and beans for a month, what's going to happen to you? Give it a try for 2 weeks. You'll live.
Yeah. Put some salt and pepper on there. Got yourself a stew.
You're good.
Yeah.
Will you survive? I'm not saying you're thriving in that world.
Yeah.
But will you live? Yeah, you will. Don't be afraid of those things. Don't be afraid of things that you've built up in your own head. Do you need 5 rooms in your house? No, maybe you could just get an apartment. And now your overhead's lower, so now you have more freedom to do other things that all this baggage you've been putting on top of you is doing. I've gone through it myself, and to the point where now I'm like trying to downsize. And like we were talking about earlier before the show, it's hard to downsize when you have kids.
Yeah, it's always a little bit more difficult.
It's a little bit more difficult. I got twin girls, so it's a little bit more challenging. But my wife and I have been trying to slowly pare things down. What do we really need? And it's not easy. We don't make it all the time. We're not perfect either, but it's at least that mentality. And so I'm not afraid of like what will happen, which was the fear of making a feature. Mm-hmm. Like, what happens if it goes out there and no one likes it? I didn't care. And I look at Ridley Scott. I'm sure you know who Ridley is, right? Mm-hmm. Ridley, for people in the audience who don't know who Ridley Scott is, he directed Aliens, he directed Blade Runner, and a million other movies that are amazing. Ridley, and I think a lot of these guys who are at that level, they just don't care. He goes, I never read reviews. I just keep going. And he's been doing it all his career because he's made some movies that I'm like, dude, Ridley, what the hell happened? In my opinion and in a lot of people's opinions, but he doesn't care. He's like, I'm just going to keep going. I wanted to do that movie. You don't like it? That's all right. I got the next one coming. Let's go. Mm-hmm. And that's an artist. That's someone who really understands their art, that understands themselves, and they're true to themselves. And that's what you people listening should do is like, just don't care about the world so much. If you're making a movie for money, which we all have to make money, try to make something that makes sense. If it doesn't work, figure out what didn't work and go do it. Do something different. But if you're going to take risks, do it on a low budget. If someone gave me $500,000 to make Meg, I would not have been so chilled.
Yeah.
I would have said no. I'm not going to go make a movie for $500,000 with Meg. That doesn't make any financial sense. Why am I going to go, gold plate my Prius and try to sell it for $400,000? Probably not going to be sold. Mm-hmm. That's the business that we're in. It's such a weird business too. You create a product. You don't even know what you're going to sell the product for. We're the only business in the world that creates products. We have no suggested manufacturer retail price.
Yeah.
We don't. You have no idea what you're going to get back from it. It's the craziest business. You get these pair of glasses. I make these glasses for 5 cents. I sell it for 10. There's our profit. With films, you can kind of, if I put this star in or this genre and I know where to sell. But it's like a crapshoot most of the times it's a crapshoot.
What do you say we get to quick questions and round up this episode?
Absolutely, brother.
All right. So what's the simplest advice that's the most important to follow?
Patience. Patience. The biggest thing I've ever had to deal with is understanding patience. You're always in a hurry to get to where you're going or what you're trying to achieve. But again, if you enjoy that ride, life is so much easier, man. It just becomes so much easier.
Just talking about Ridley Scott and criticism, if you do look at your critics and what people say about the work you do, how do you deal with it?
Well, when first exposed to that criticism was when I did Broken, my first short film, which was everywhere online. And we had nothing but good reviews for the first 60 reviews. And then afterwards, I got Roger Ebert to give me a review. I met him at a Toronto Film Festival, and that's a whole other story. But he watched our little short film and gave us. He was so pleasant. He was such a wonderful man, and he gave us a good review. Afterwards, the haters came out full blown, this isn't all that. This is crap. And then at the time, I was a young kid. I was 30. And I would literally go after every one of them. I would go back, you know what, fuck you. And I would literally try to, and I did that. It was exhausting. Exhausting. So at a certain point, look, nobody wants to hear that someone doesn't like your work. We're artists. We want everyone to love our work. But at the end of the day, especially when you're at the levels of Ridley Scott or any of that, but even at our level of indie films, you just got to keep going, man. You can't, I've had bad reviews on Meg, it's all right, man. Keep going, listen to it. There's difference between constructive criticism and just straight up haters. And there's a lot of haters out there. I did a whole episode on haters, what to do when people hate on you.
Sometimes it can be funny because sometimes they make no fucking sense at all.
No, and then it's so easy to get them wild up. And I don't do that anymore, but I'd be like, how are you doing in your mom's basement? Things like that. But I decide I don't do that anymore. It's fun.
Yeah.
But it doesn't create anything positive.
It's a little distracting too.
Yeah, it just doesn't create anything positive in your life. And I just you know what? If that's your opinion, it's all it is. It's your opinion. You cannot make everyone happy. So just kind of block it out. If it's the first time you're going through it, it's going to be painful. Don't read them. Just try to keep moving forward as much as you can. And on a side note, real quick, if you only focus your energy on one project and then live with that project for 3 years, you're going to drive yourself mad. Keep working. Keep making new stuff. Don't just sit around waiting. Oh, God, I got to keep going with this project. No, don't. Just give it a lot of time and move on.
Where do you go when you're feeling doubt?
The movie theater. I go to the movie theater. It's my church. I'll go watch a movie by myself. I don't do it very often, but that's where I generally go. If I'm in real despair or in a place where I'm just not, it's home for me. It's where I've always,
you go by yourself?
Yeah, you generally go by myself. Yeah,
that's amazing. I've done it a few times.
Yeah, well,
because I don't do it often where I go to the movies. Period. Yeah. But just going by yourself to the movies is, like you said, it is a nice meditative experience. You don't have to worry about if your partner likes it or your kids like it.
I'm there and I'm just me and the artist who put that on the screen for me, and that's it. And I usually bring my popcorn because it's ridiculous at the theaters.
Oh, it's crazy, but it tastes so good. What one skill should everyone learn?
Persistence. You have to persist. Don't resist, persist, and you got to keep going no matter what happens. And I'll quote the great Rocky Balboa, who says, "It's not about how hard you get hit; it's about how hard you get hit and keep moving forward." And it's absolutely true. It's one of the best speeches I've ever seen on film.
Oh, it's so good.
That one, it's like a 90-second speech to his son or 2-minute speech to his son. You're just like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah, I totally watched it on an airplane and cried.
No, it's amazing. That movie's great. Rocky Balboa. It was a good movie.
Oh my God.
It had no business being a good movie.
Yeah.
Had no business being a good movie. It was oh my God, Sly, dude, what the hell? This is amazing.
So much emotion.
But just creating that, just being persistent And if you don't have that skill, you won't make it in this business or any business, honestly, or in life. If you just fold the second something happens to you, or you fold when adversity hits you, you're done. Then you won't move. And then you're just going to sit there lumping along, angry, writing hate mail.
That's great. All right, to wrap things up, 2 questions.
Yeah.
First, name one thing people should read, watch, or listen to before they go to bed tonight.
The Alchemist by Pablo Coelho. It's one of those amazing books that it's about following your dreams, and it's one of those books that changed my life, and also just changed the world in a lot of ways. A good book can do that in a way that good cinema or good art or anything can do.
And how should people connect with you online?
I'm pretty much everywhere, as you can imagine, but indiefilmhustle.com. Twitter is at indiefilmhustle. Facebook is at indiefilmhustle. Instagram is at ifilmhustle. Me and Instagram had an issue, a disagreement, so it's ifilmhustle. And then my personal directing site is at alexferrari.com.
Awesome, man. Thanks for taking the time today.
Hey, brother. Thank you, man. I had a great time.
All right. Thanks for listening to The Ground Up Show. If you like this podcast, there's something you can do right now to help. Head on over to iTunes and leave a quick review. I print out every single one and I put them up on my mood board above my bed. Okay, that's not true, but I still notice and appreciate every one. For more on The Ground Up Show, including behind the scenes videos, check out groundupshow.com. Thanks for listening.